Morning, everybody. I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Wendy Yee.
I'm Chris Yee.
Welcome to another week of Board Game Breakfast. This is a big week here at the Dice Tower. Did I say a week of Board Game Breakfast? Welcome to another week at the Dice Tower, starting with Board Game Breakfast.
You've got to eat your breakfast first.
I want a week-long breakfast, Tom. Bacon and eggs that never stop.
I'm pretty sure that this breakfast is good enough to last all week.
You get real tired of bacon real fast, I think, in that situation.
Actually, bacon and eggs is not my favorite breakfast combo. You know what my favorite breakfast combo is? Anything besides breakfast food.
I feel like you're just sucking up now.
No.
Really? Not breakfast food is your favorite breakfast food?
Pretty much.
All food is breakfast food!
We've been married for 10 years.
All food is breakfast food. All right, anyway.
I agree, all food is breakfast food.
Mm-hmm. Let's start off with a contest here. So this is from Pandasaurus Games. We got 2 copies of the Sobek, the 2-player version of, I think it's
Sobek for 2 players.
Sobek for 2 players.
I think it's the official name, yes.
Z reviewed this. You can check out his review on the game, and there's not a lot of games these days that work well for 2 players because they're all worried about being solo or covering the gamut of everybody else. This game is shipping in May. Well, that's probably not true, but I'm trying to. Anyway, you need to answer this question: what animal is shown on each player's corruption board? Ooh, what do you think it is?
A corrupt animal.
It's an Egyptian game.
It's an Egyptian thing, so alligator, ostrich, platypus,
snake,
hippogriff,
a dog.
Yeah, griffin.
Not a cat.
Hippogriff.
It's probably not a cat.
Lunar baboon.
Anyway, to enter this contest, you need to email us at contest@dicetower.com. In the subject line, put the word temple. We got 2 copies that we're giving out. This is for folks in the USA. So have fun. Enter the contest. Okay. If you backed our Kickstarter, our Pledge Manager is live. If you haven't got an email yet, and I know that some of the emails might have been delayed, I'm going to be checking into that today. Keep an eye out for that, but you don't have to wait for the email. You can just go straight to GameFound and sign in if you have an account there, and sign in and do the Dice Tower 2022 pledge. So thank you for everyone who filled it out so we can figure out how much shipping is going to cost, because shipping's a lot these days. Secondly, in a week or 2, I'll have the exact date on Thursday. I actually had the exact date, but I completely forgot. Dice Tower Cruise is launching. The registration for Dice Tower Cruise. It's either next Monday or next Thursday. We'll let you know soon enough. Keep an eye on that space. Yes, so registration for that, it's already half sold out from people who've come before. So it's going to sell out again, so you want to get on the ball with that one if you want to come on a very, very fun...
very great.
It's a cruise. I don't even have to say anything else, but it's a cruise with board games.
Food, glorious food, and board games. What else could you want?
Well, the Dice Tower crew, hopefully.
Food and board games.
Well, me, I will be there with food and board games. And some guy named Tom Vassell.
Well, no, I don't care about... Anyway, the rest of the Dice Tower crew will be there. Also, if you are going to Gen Con, our Gen Con show is live. I don't think you can register for events yet. You can look at them and add them to a wish list, which I think is weird. So that when registration for events does go live, you can add it. But we have a thing we're doing. We'll all be there at Gen Con. We're hoping to see you there. We got our booth paid for. We're excited about that. There's a lot of things coming up in the future, and there's probably other things I can't remember that I was going to talk to you all about, but we'll go to some contributors, and maybe I'll remember them in a minute.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Ryan.
I'm Bethany.
And we are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews. Today we're going to be talking about rival restaurants. In this game, you are a restaurant, and you are trying to gain popularity. That's kind of your victory points in this game. You do that by having these recipes. You're going to the market, and you're buying all the different ingredients that you need in order to fulfill those recipes. You complete them, get your points, you get some special abilities from your restaurant, some special abilities from your personalized chef that you have working at your restaurant in order to gain the most amount of points and combos. Also, we'll try not to produce a lot of trash, which is kind of fun. All right, so as you know, we like to talk about things that we're trying to do to be better, healthier people in our lives. One thing that we've noticed is that we are more successful when we have a lot of produce in our diet. And it's not always cheap, and it's not always the most convenient thing to do because it goes bad and it's more expensive, all those kinds of things. But when we see a lot of produce in our diet, a lot of fruits, fresh vegetables, those kinds of things, as opposed to when we have like the processed, prepackaged things, it makes a big difference on how we feel, as well as, just overall our weight loss journey and our goals. So I would encourage you, go to the markets and get the non-carb thing.
We even have a rule with our daughters after supper, they can only have vegetables until it's bedtime. Like, that's all the snacks you can have.
If I could just hold on to that, it'd be even better.
So Rival Restaurants was a really interesting order fulfillment game because you're still attacking each other. So you're trying to get all these things, and you're trying to work with each other and trade, but you also can mess with each other's boards as well. So it's kind of an interesting take on that.
I love the ability to kind of upgrade your restaurant, give your restaurant new abilities. Maybe you hire a social media manager to give you more income. Maybe you have a celebrity endorsement. Maybe you have a new recipe book. You have all these different things that you can add to your restaurant. Getting all those combos geared up is really my favorite part of this game. I did think that there was a little bit of leaning into some stereotypes and some kind of, there was a card that specifically called out like this fat chef. Basically, his name was Love Handles McFatterson, which I don't know, for me personally, it was a little off-putting. But they kind of lead into those stereotypes a little too hard for my preference.
Yeah, but overall, this is a really interesting take on that. So if it sounds interesting, I would definitely check it out. Everybody, this is Ryan, and I'm Bethany. Don't forget to find us on YouTube so you can follow our stuff or find us in any of these places. And we are hoping that you have a happy, healthy breakfast.
Bye
guys.
Hey there, my name's Jonna, and I like to look at board games from an environmentalist perspective. Today, I'm going to be talking about more eco-friendly swaps in lieu of plastic baggies. Now, I know plastic baggies are a mainstay when it comes to our board gaming hobby. It is the go-to for storage, and it's also very important for manufacturing to do quality control. It's not an easy thing to get away from. But if you're looking for better organization for your board games, or if you just want to luxify some of your favorite games, here's some eco-friendly options. I actually did a whole video about this on my channel, and some of the items that I shared were tins, cloth baggies, and craft paper boxes. These were all very affordable and found on places like Etsy, Paper Mart, and Amazon. By far, the most positive feedback I got was from the idea of using containers that you already have. Some of the suggestions I gave were reusing these little candy boxes, old antique tins that I found at a yard sale, and reusing medicine bottles for games like Flatline and Pandemic. Everyone really liked the idea of reusing containers that kind of went with the theme of the game. Some ideas that people shared were reusing tea tins and jewelry boxes, match boxes, and Altoid tins. But my favorite tip that I got was from someone who shared a post with me from BGG, how to make board game storage out of origami. I really love this idea. It's so customizable and so simple and eco-friendly. What are some out-of-the-box ideas that you use for your in-the-box storage? I love to hear them. I hope you guys have a great morning, and I'll see you in the next one.
All right, let's go back to 20 years ago when I was talking to everyone about the game today. I said, this is a game I know in the studio. I'm the only person who played it. And in 20 years from now, that will still be true. Which is confusing, though, because today we're talking about Sid Meier's Civilization.
Give me a moment.
which we'll show the box cover in a second. And here's why it's confusing, because Fantasy Flight remade the game in 2010.
With the same name.
With the same name. Well, I mean, why would you not remake it with that name? I mean, Sid Meier's Civ is one of the most popular games in video game, computer game history.
Which the video game basically feels like a board game. That's what I felt when I played it.
Have you played it?
The video game? It was too much for me. Yeah, I was like, I don't have the mental capacity and investment.
You've never played the... Wow, it's like a Euro game.
I think you would like it.
With war.
I wonder if I would like it, but also when you were like 3 hours into the game one time, you're like, all right, starting the Bronze Age or whatever. I was like, oh, got it.
Long.
Like, yeah.
I'll tell you what, though,
I can't keep
for
track of
video
everything
game purposes, I have never had time go by so fast. You saw me on the plane.
Yes.
I played it, and those 5 hours went by like that because it does it. And the game always has this thing at the end when you say exit. It's like, just one more turn, and you can click that and play another turn and keep playing.
Gosh.
And in college, that definitely happened. Anyhow, so 20 years ago, Eagle Games, they were not Eagle Griffin at the time, they were just Eagle, was making big, grandiose war games. They made War, Age of Imperialism, and the American Civil War, and Age of Mythology. So Glenn Drover got the license for these video games, Age of Mythology. Civilization, the board game, was based on the computer game, but you cannot make that computer game a board game. There's just too much upkeep. There's too many things going on. Fantasy Flight did a better job of it later on, but they also took they made a board game of the app version of the game, I think, or a lighter version game. Doesn't matter. You can't do the full game. This is a grandiose game. It comes with a gazillion miniatures. Your miniatures upgrade as the game goes by. So if I'm using, I might start with some spearmen and then upgrade to rifles and upgrade to tanks. There's 3 types of units: cavalry, infantry, artillery, and there is a rock, paper, scissors type aspect between them. It's way too long. It's like 7-8 hours. And that's fine, but the gameplay isn't totally that engrossing. There's some trading that can be done. There's cards. It's a product of its time. I enjoyed it at the time. I looked at my rating. It's a 6. And probably a 5 now. The thing is, I wanted to like it. Like, a game based on one of my favorite video games of all time. That's full of plastic miniatures at the time. Like, oh, here's Axis and Allies Part 3. But it's not quite there. In fact, none of those games were. Now, it's not as big of a disappointment as Age of Mythology, which we'll probably talk about at some point in this series. But it's forgettable, unfortunately. And again, no one's playing it these days. However, if you see a cheap copy, buy it, because there's a gazillion miniatures in it. Although I believe all the miniatures are the same color, because they couldn't make that many different types of units for each player. It's tan, I think. Let me pull it up.
Or like
here.
gray or something. Do you put like a chip underneath it or something? Like
for the life of me, I can't remember. I think you have, you had units of, or maybe they were all different colors. No, they weren't. Yeah, you have these leaders. See the different units there?
So how do you know which one's yours?
You have a unit of your color or something with it, like a city of your color or a leader or something like that.
Yeah.
So this was a good effort, a good try. Maybe 6 hours is too short. I remember the first time we played it, it took 3 days. Where no.
You took dinner breaks in between.
No,
then you went back to the grindstone.
It was after work.
You eat breakfast.
And then we came to my house. We played it. We left it set up on the table, which shows you it was 20 years ago because I had not 7 kids at the time. I had 2. And they weren't high enough to reach the table. Yeah, I can't even imagine leaving a game set up now. And I think, I might be wrong, but I think the second time we did take it down, this may be the first game that I've ever taken a digital picture. At the time, it was very hot.
Oh, sure.
Digital cameras.
Yeah.
A digital picture of the game so we could remember what it looked like. Nowadays, we don't even think about that. We're like, click, 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 click.
Yeah.
Man, digital cameras sucked back then.
Oh, they were terrible.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
you got 3 pictures on the memory card if you wanted any like quality.
I got 55 if they were like this big.
Yeah. Anyhow,
so yeah.
Sid Meier's Civilization. This is not worth your time to get, unfortunately. It's a game best left in the past. I'm glad they're making it. Let's say someone announced right now they were making a new version of this game.
Sid Meier's Civilization.
I don't think I would.
Send 20 copies to Tom.
I think I don't think I would even be that excited about it. Even the Fantasy Flight one I don't love. I think it's fine. It's good, but this is the kind of game that's best left to a computer. There's so much upkeep and things happening.
This is my real question: is how many different versions of Civilization have you played on the computer?
I played all 6.
All 6?
Well, no, I played all 6. I also played Alpha Centauri. I also played Colonization, and I also played the one on the iPad.
Do you have a favorite?
Yeah, Civ 6, the newest one.
Okay, that's the only one I played.
Civ 6 is the newest one, but Civ 4 is pretty close. Yeah, Civ is like many things. The even numbers are fantastic.
I was going to say that's odd, but no, that's incorrect.
They screw it up on the odds, so you really appreciate the next even.
Well, Civ 3 is the worst. Civ 5, they revamped the whole game. They changed it from it was a square grid to a hex grid. They changed a lot of things, and a lot of changes they made were good, but it was too jarring, and 6, they kind of smoothed it back out and fixed it, I thought.
I'll tell you, I've not played any of them, but they have amazing soundtracks.
Oh, they do.
They do.
Yeah. I can just listen to those.
Pirates I did not play, but Pirates is not a Civilization game. It's just a Sid Meier's game. All right. Well, that's what I played 20 years ago.
What is up? My name is Matthew McCack, and this is Smashing Buttons and Slamming Cards. This is a segment where I talk about a video game I love and I connect it to a board game I love. And this week, I want to talk about Cuphead, the video game. So Cuphead is a shooter, run across the platformer kind of game. It is wacky, it is fast, it is hard. It is super difficult to win in that game, but essentially you're going through platformer style, and then you're going up against the big boss, and it's broken up into phases, that boss, and you try to win. I want to connect that to Cuphead, fast-rolling dice game. Now, I don't usually connect a board game to a video game that is like a board game that's actually based on the video game, because a lot of times I don't think it really gives the feel of that video game. But this one does, I think, because it has that fastness to it, the quickness, where you don't really have time to think of the strategy, although you should have a strategy in mind, but then it's just like, fast, go. It's got that video game flair to it, where because of the rolling of the dice that goes by so quickly. And it is so difficult to beat this game. This has it in strides. If you download the app, it plays the same music that the video game has. The boss decks are very cool. They're just like the ones in the video game itself. And it's all about like defending first before you can really attack. And that's kind of how the video game is. Like you have to defend yourself against the attacks first and then shoot them like whenever you can. So that is really cool. I actually think that this is possibly one of my favorites, if not my favorite board game from the op. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you'd like, you can check out mine and my brother's channel called Room 51. I'll catch you next time.
This is a segment where we take a look at a board game based on an IP, and I tell you if the IP and the mechanisms match. Today, we're looking at the Santa Claus game. Setup for the game is going to be pretty easy. Put the Christmas tree next. Everybody's going to take a sleigh and put their presents inside of it, and then you'll take your little Santa Claus person, and you'll put it here on the start phase. Then what you're going to do is you're going to roll the die. You're going to move that many spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, what you can do is you can move in any direction. There's different paths. You're going to ho, ho, ho. You have to make a Santa ho, ho, ho noise. Land on the musical notes. You got to sing a Christmas song. If you get a snowflake, you got to twirl around in a circle like a snowflake. And really what you're trying to do is get these presents. If you land on the Christmas tree, you take one of your presents, you put it under the Christmas tree, and you're on your way to winning. When you're able to get rid of all of your Christmas presents, you are the winner of the game. And that's how you play Santa Claus the game. Santa Claus has got to be one of the oldest IPs going. This is an intellectual property that is now in the public domain, I'm sure, but it is one that has been very powerful. And this one, you're competing Santa Clauses to deliver presents, which makes no sense. But to compound the issue, they put a garbage game on top of it of rolling the dice and maybe sometimes having to laugh like Santa and sometimes maybe having to sing a Christmas carol. This is a mess of a game, not very good. But if you scale it down for a 3-year-old, it's not bad. The roll and move thing is still fresh to them. I think the giggling of making the noises and twirling around like a snowflake works for them. But the game isn't very good. The IP, it doesn't make any sense. And it's definitely cash-in and garbage and a purge for me.
I'm going to argue that Santa Claus is not an old intellectual property because it's not an intellectual property.
The Santa Claus Corporation would disagree with you, and here's a subpoena.
Who is the Santa Claus Corporation? Is it Coke?
Indiana, USA.
Because Coke is the one who, I'm pretty sure it was Coke.
They own polar bears.
No, no, but I think Coke, way back in the day, that the Santa Claus, they did. You know, I read about that one time, where the guys who did those polar bear commercials, there was a couple advertising agencies competing for Coca-Cola, and the polar bear guys came in and already had all the commercials done on videotapes back in the day,
Videotape, yeah.
and everything. And the other company was like, "You guys win."
Really?
That's what I heard.
Aww.
That might be rumor.
Do you remember the classic when Pepsi had the grizzly bears doing the Pepsi to the YMCA? P-E-P-S-I.
I do not remember that.
Not as classic a commercial. Let's go on.
Clearly not.
What's coming from the Dice Tower this week, Tom?
Yeah,
Grape
so
nuts
in
and
a
bears.
bit, he's playing What's Happening. He's playing that today at 10 o'clock, and he's playing Love Letter. And I said, how can that be possible? And he said, well, it says 1 to 4, so we'll find out. That'd be interesting if that does work, though. At the Table, me and Eric, our second episode of that. Well, third episode, but episode 2, anyway.
Official second episode.
It says guest to be announced here, but the guest is actually Ben Maddox, yes. So that's today at 3, although it will also go out on our podcast feeds later this week on Friday.
So who's doing the Q&A instead of you today?
The Q&A is Mike DeLisio at noon. Thank you for pointing that out.
I know that guy. He's pretty cool.
The crowd goes wild.
Thank you.
Mike actually has a button he could press that does applause.
Oh.
And he claps himself.
He could also make it yell, "Fur pal."
Please don't. Okay, so what else is happening here? All throughout this week, I think this is the last week of our showing off the stuff from the Spring Spectacular. Sure looks like it. You would know that.
There might be, it might go a little bit into next week. But yeah, we're reposting a lot of the contributor stuff, a lot of top 10 lists that people have done, top 10 animal games, top 10 games with springtime feel. So if you didn't catch all of it during the Spring Spectacular, each of the individual contributors are going up.
Tomorrow we're doing Shoots and Marbles. I'm putting up a review of Key to the Kingdom. We have, I'm reviewing Unlock Kids. Definitely watch that review, the new Unlock series for kids.
2 thumbs up. Down. Medium.
That's Wendy's opinion. Anyway,
We don't know.
so more stuff is coming this week. The big reviews this week on Sunday. The Foursquare review will be of the new expansion for Viticulture World, and also I'll be taking a look at Wonderland's Wars. Also, I guess another big review is Legacies. That's definitely a big game. I got a lot of big reviews coming this week, and more coming in the future week. But the biggest thing this week, the top 100 games of all time, as the A-Team, these guys, and Camilla and Roy. And that starts tomorrow at noon. It'll be noon. So you'll see it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Then a week after that, it's
Monday through Thursday.
Monday through Thursday, I think. So
Adds up.
enjoy that. They put a lot of work into this. I have no idea what games are going to show up in the lists.
Everything.
Only Mike knows that information. It's not like I'm losing sleep over it, Mike.
Secrets. We got a secret.
Anyway, that's what's coming from the Dice Tower this week.
Hi, I'm Jordan. I'm here to talk about a game that's great to play on a weeknight. And this is a bit of a classic, I think, when it comes to kind of what I would say a weeknight style game, and that is The Fox and the Forest. This is a trick-taking game just for 2 players. Now, when I think of trick-taking games for 2 players, you know, it kind of feels like war sometimes, where you're just kind of playing a card and hope it beats the other person. But this one really works, and I think part of what makes it work really well is that half of the cards in the deck have special powers, and those special powers are going to kind of twist the rules a little bit for a traditional trick-taking game. Because you still have to, you know, whoever won the last trick gets to lead the next one, play a card on the table, and you have to follow suit. So if they play a blue card, you also have to play a blue card, and whoever played the higher blue card wins it, and then they get to start the next one. You're trying to get you know, so many tricks, and there's a little score thing. You don't want too many tricks, you don't want too few tricks, that kind of thing to score the most points. But I think those special powers on the cards are really interesting because some of them, you know, it allows, you know, this certain number is kind of always acts as though it's a trump, or this number, if you lose the trick, you actually get to lead the next one, or if you This next card, it allows you to swap a card that was still left in the deck with a different one in your hand. So it gives you some interesting kind of choices and interesting kind of twists to what could just be a kind of drab back and forth game where you're just trying to beat the other card on the table. So that's Fox in the Forest. This one has stuck around in my collection. And my daughter, May, who really likes War, unfortunately, because I don't like that game. Or is it a game? But I taught her this one because it felt like one that could kind of take the place of that, and she has enjoyed that as well. So that kind of reignited my enjoyment of this one. So that is Fox in the Forest. Still a classic, still one that's sticking around in my collection. Enjoy it a lot. I'm Jordan. Thanks.
So later on this summer, I'm actually starting a series that I'll be starting in July. Anyway, about the Kickstarters.
Grizzly bears.
No, not about
dancing.
Grizzly Bears. During while Jordan was talking, we were not watching Jordan. We were watching Grizzly Bears do Pepsi.
1997, that commercial is from.
I
Go ahead
like
and do
that
yourself
commercial.
a favor and watch it.
That's a good commercial. Anywho, so anyway, I'm taking a look at Kickstarters and that I've backed. And, you know, when I think of them now. And it's amazing how many Kickstarters I backed 3 years ago, which we've just gotten. Or, in fact, we have a Kickstarter that just showed up today that has the year 2021 printed on the side of it. And it's May 2022.
Printed right on the box in bright yellow, so you can always, remember the year that didn't come out.
It went through the Twilight Zone. There was some timey-wimey wibbly wobbly, and it ended up here.
So I always say the best way to treat Kickstarter is to back something and forget about it. Now that's not really easy when they're constantly sending updates and so on and so forth.
Sure.
But if you back a lot of them, then you start ignoring all the updates and it's a little easier. You just wait to see when they come up, and the game will come along and go, oh yeah, I forgot about this game. The problem is if you really want the game. I mentioned this because I just got, last week, my Marvel United, the X-Men United playmat, which I got a shipping notice for, I was very excited about, and then the playmat showed up and no game. I still don't have the game.
But the playmat's the best part.
You got such a great playmat, Tom.
The playmat is not the best part. I want to play the game. I have the game. I want all the stuff. I want my Sentinels and everything. And I don't normally feel this way. Like I said, I'm mostly good for the most part. But if there's one thing I learned about Kickstarter is, first of all, don't back anything with a specific time frame. Especially kids games. I can't tell you the number of times I've seen people say they backed a kids game on Kickstarter, and then when it showed up, their kid was a teenager. You know, that sounds funny and all, but that really is a problem.
Plan way ahead. If you have an infant, buy all of the kids' games now.
That's true. You're like, oh, kid's 4. I might as well back it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing to do. Although kids' games typically get produced faster than adult games for the most part. But what do you do when you, how do you deal with that? You guys don't back as many Kickstarters or any.
We're not big Kickstarter people. We've done a couple.
Yeah, we have usually maybe one outstanding at a time. You know.
Do we have one outstanding right now? Okay, Chris will occasionally back a Kickstarter. I never know what they are.
Okay, well, forgetting.
Last Light.
Well, yeah, there's Last Light. Okay.
Well, it hasn't even ended.
I thought there was another one, but that's okay.
So let's say, though, that forgetting Kickstarter, has there ever been a time where you're looking forward to a game coming out and it seems like it's forever?
Oh, man, I remember one of the biggest annoyances was when the Dice Tower would review a game that came out in Essen of whatever year, and then I would wait for like a US release of it, and sometimes it wouldn't happen for a whole year, and the game has kind of fallen out of the hotness at that point. You know, that was, I remember, was one of the biggest struggles.
Thanks, Chris. I get it. There's not a lot we can do about that because we're not even sure sometimes.
No, yeah. And sometimes games don't get released other places. So there's that weird anticipation, that weird wait. Do I order it from Amazon.de and pay for, transcontinental shipping? Waiting on a game is hard, but you also have to remember that it's not that important to get the new game, I guess.
It really isn't.
Yeah, I've been one of those people that I'm not super always wanting to play the new hot game. I just want to play a good game when I play a game. That's what I want.
And you work here.
Well, she works in the library, though, where the games are already there.
That's fair.
I play a lot of games.
I don't do a whole lot of save this spot for these 4 games because we don't know. Well, this delayed gratification, we talk about it as kids. It used to be a thing for Christmas. Oh, I can't wait for Christmas to come. Even now, I think there's sometimes with movies. Doctor Strange is coming out this week. Oh, I've been excited about that. But for me, I try to compartmentalize this stuff out of my mind for anything, whether it's a video game, a movie, a vacation coming up.
Yeah.
Because if you live, I think psychologically it's a bad way to live. Looking forward to something so much
that you can't enjoy the now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think oftentimes too, if I build something up too much in my mind, then when it finally happens, it finally gets to the table, or I finally go on that great vacation, it didn't meet expectations because I made it a bigger thing, and so.
Yeah, I think
like
that's
keep it reasonable, you know.
And sometimes I don't know that it's possible. I remember when Avengers Endgame came out. There was no way I could temper my expectations. I couldn't physically do that. I'm sure there are some games, like I mentioned X-Men United, that's one out of hundreds of games that I'm like really excited to play. Usually I'm like, it will come because I managed to temper my expectations about most stuff. When we go on the cruise, it's really hard for me to be like, I don't care, it's next week.
Yeah.
You know, there are some things that are that good.
There's certain things you count down the days, and I don't know, there's something sweet about that. But yeah, when it comes to months, you just gotta say, okay, that'll happen when it happens, you know? And I apologize, as someone pointed out in the chat, yes, I did say that Golem was my favorite game of 2021. So I'm part of the problem that I
So to avoid this,
despised.
I think, honestly, if it bothers you a lot about this thing, I think social media can be a bad part of this.
Sure.
I think there's a lot of reasons to temper your
A lot of that fear of missing out feeling.
Yeah, the FOMO. There's a lot of that. And also, you should probably stay off Kickstarter, maybe, if it's not worth it for you. Because usually when these Kickstarters come out, you can get a copy of it from someone who didn't want it pretty easily. Or the Essen releases will come out the next year. Or Arc Nova, which was sold out in the first 2 printings. I just saw a copy of that in the store the other day. So I know that you can, if you just wait, patience is a virtue, and patience is usually rewarded. Not always. Usually rewarded. So also stop watching the Dice Tower. I'm just kidding. Watch us. Watch us over the other contingent people who pushes more than we do. Okay,
You're really bad at pushing your own stuff. He's like, maybe you should watch this thing.
You just physically turn very awkward as you're trying to talk about how good you are. Tom, you do a good job, I think. You do the best you can, at least.
Let's move on.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Today we're looking at this massive game.
Oh, look at this thing.
Foundations of Rome. This is a 1 to 5 player game by Arcane Wonders. It's a tile placement city building based in Rome, as you can probably tell.
Yeah, this is actually, you're building the full-size city of Rome, pretty much. So this is, as Bear says, it's a kind of tile laying and city building game whereby you buy deeds from a marketplace, and then once you own those deeds, you place a little man on it to sort of mark it as yours, and then on subsequent goes, you build your buildings from your player board onto the main board where you've bought your deeds. And there's basically, that's pretty much it. There are 3 things you can do on your go. You can buy the deeds, you can build or upgrade a building to a bigger building, or you can take money from Caesar, the city of Rome.
And they're great coins as well, actually, in the bank.
Yeah.
Solid coins.
So that's one of the 3 things that you can do, and you literally just take it in turns doing that until you've built the city of Rome on the main board. And you score 3 separate times in 3 different eras when you've bought the deeds, and the deeds run out in each era. And you score according to what buildings are adjacent to which other buildings, and the amount of population that you've got in your domiciles, domuses, I think they call them, where the people live. And that's it. It's a very simple game to pick up, but it's
really
quite
simple.
Quite strategic in the way that you build and who you build next to and stuff like that.
Yeah, minute to play, lifetime to master.
That thing, yeah.
That thing.
Very in depth if you want to go that way with all the strategy.
I was a bit put off by the size of it, but
obviously
no need to be. It is great, easy, simple to pick up, and great fun.
Yeah, I own the now the new triumphant title of biggest box brought to the board game club at my board game club. I win. So there we go. If you can find this, definitely recommend it. It's
and
a great
game.
Players
as well.
It works really well too, and really good theming, and obviously the production's through the roof.
Love it.
Definitely recommend this one. Foundations of Rome Hail Caesar.
Hail Caesar. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Hello Proti here, you're a Romanian content creator, and today I will continue my series where I will talk about a specific part of a game, and today we will talk about Petrichor. Petrichor is an area majority game. There are two places where you try to get area majority on the different tiles, where you float with your clouds around and drop droplets and so on, and in the voting area. And this is interesting because you are trying, by playing cards, to do different effects during the round, and then afterwards, and after every action, you are voting on the specific end of round actions that should happen. And if you have the majority on those votes, first of all, of course, that thing is happening, but the other thing, but everybody is doing that action, so you want to have a majority of votes, not necessarily from your side, so that that effect is happening at the end of the round. But in the meantime, you want to have the majority of votes in the effects that are happening so that you can get steps on those tracks. So it's really hard to explain, so it's a really interesting game when you grasp everything what is happening. But one thing that I wanted to mention, what I find interesting, are of course the tiles that you are trying to get area majority on them, and one of them is this potato. There are some simpler ones and some more complex ones, but this one is an easy one, but I think it's giving you a nice decision point and an interesting fight for this tile, because if this tile is giving points to the players which have droplets on it, it will give for the player with the most droplets 3 points, and the player with the second most 7 points. So usually the biggest who has more droplets is getting more points, but not here with the potato. Here the second place, and then it's an interesting fight over there. Am I putting the first droplet? Do I go for movement of droplets? What do I vote at the end of the game? So that if this tile is giving points at the end of the round, you should be the one that has the second most droplets, which is an interesting fight, I would say. The game is really interesting, and I wanted to mention this tile that I really like when it is in the game. So this is what I wanted to talk about. Petrichor, have a nice breakfast.
I just finished a Korean drama this last week. I was watching, what was it, Bride of Habek, which I guess is also Bride of the Water God. And it reminded me how much I love Korean dramas. And the best part of it for me is that you get an entire story arc across 16 to 20 episodes, and then it's done. Like, those characters are done, you're not gonna see them again, and it's complete, and I love it. It's wonderful. So I had tons of fun with that. You have not watched any Korean dramas with me, but you've been in the general house and area. Have you watched any?
I have. I introduced my wife to one a long time ago. It was a cooking one.
Okay.
Because they fall into a few categories. There's gangsters, a lot of gangsters, where the guy's a gangster or whatever. There's the colonial, I don't know what the period is,
yeah, more of the ancient
historical drama, but they pick there's a certain period of time, and they really like that period. There's a lot in that period.
They got the cool hats.
And then there's food. There's a lot that have to do with food. So that's one of the ones I watched.
I think there's food in all of these. Like, there's always cool looking street food and great stuff, and I always want to eat it.
Anyway, I enjoyed it, and I thought that we were done. And my wife has been watching Korean dramas ever since.
See, so. I really enjoy the more mystical ones, or the very like detective-y ones. Those are my favorite. So I don't know a lot about Korean lore, and so watching these and seeing a little bit about their like afterlife ideas and the kind of like religious side of things is very interesting to me, to learn about their grim reapers and the gods and like the way they get to the afterlife and all that really interesting stuff. I just find that really cool because it's not something I grew up with, and so it's very mystical and fun to me. It's
funny though, because I'll walk into a room sometimes and I'll just kind of see what's happening, and like out of context, this is really strange. Or you'll talk to me later, like, oh yeah, this interesting stuff happened in the show. Turned out the guy's not a tree. Like, okay, you're gonna have to go back a few steps and remind me what that means.
I did wonder recently if a guy was a tree. Another thing that's really interesting about these dramas is that they don't always have the wrap it up in a bow happy ending.
Which I don't like.
Which I have mixed feelings about, because there's moments where I'm like, okay, how is this going to get resolved? And then it doesn't really, and so that leaves me unhappy. But there's other times that I'm like, okay, I can see why this is how you chose to make this ending. It works. It's not the way I would end it, but it works. I don't know.
I'll get to see you, my truest love, every 27 years for my work conference.
Okay, that was one I was unhappy with. Yeah. I'm not going to spend 3 weeks with someone, fall in love with them, and then never fall in love again for the rest of my life and see them once every, 20 years. That's terrible.
Read into that what you will.
I love you.
Hey, this has been longer than 3 weeks, Tom.
I do enjoy the romance arcs. They get a little long at the end usually, but I enjoy because usually in a chick flick movie, you've got an hour and a half to 2 hours, and they try to build an entire relationship way too fast. And then you have an American TV show that's 6 or 7 seasons long, and will they, won't they for 6 and 7 seasons hurts my soul. But you give me, 5 or 6 episodes, and we have the will they, won't they, and then the whole rest of the show is let's solve a murder mystery or something. And I just I appreciate that. I get a real feeling of these people know each other, they spend time with each other, a relationship grows and builds, and now we're gonna go fix each other's lives and make great stuff happen.
I think it harkens back to when we were dating, and after just a few dates, we're like, now we'll solve the murder mystery of my great-great-grand tree.
Accurate, completely accurate. So yeah, Korean dramas, if you haven't seen them, if you haven't watched any, there's some really good ones out there. W2U or W2 or something like that.
Hulu has a lot also.
Yeah, Netflix has
a lot.
tons. I just feel like every streaming service is grabbing some. Even Disney's putting out one, I think, recently on Disney Plus. Yeah, there's a new one on there. So they're everywhere. They're really cool, and you can binge for 16 episodes and then move on with your life. So let's move on with the show.
Assalamu alaikum. Zombicide Invader is one of the lesser supported Zombicide games, sadly by Simon, even though this is one of my favorite Zombicide games. But have no fear, because there is a good community still supporting the game and adding more missions for the game. On BGG file section, you will be able to find Alien Apocalypse campaign for this game as well, which adds many more missions. I think around 10 or 11 missions for this one. But you will need not only Invader, but also the Wolfsburg, the Toxic City Mall boxes, remote boxes to have that game, because it's going to add a very cool kind of scenario about time travel, where you have found out that actually the aliens had overrun planet Earth in 1995, and they had teleported Cole into the future during the Invader time. And now they are traveling back in time to actually save the apocalypse from happening back on Earth as well as saving the future as well at the same time. So there will be moments when you will be going back and forth and playing both in the past as well as in the present during this mission. And that's why you need components or the playing game boards from both multiple games. So you will be able to see the list of Zombicide boxes that you will need to play that campaign. But if you have that Zombicide collection, then you're going to have a fun time with that cool expansion available on BGG file section. So look for Alien Apocalypse in the file section. That's it from me. Happy gaming.
Hi, I'm Doug the Third, and you are watching a Fellowship of Meeples with Doug and Doug Gaming. Today is the last edition of Dirt Cheap Games. And on this edition, we're gonna review this game that we picked up from Ollie's bargain market. I forgot what the actual title is. This is Carmen Sandiego, Catch Vile and Return the Loot. My review on this game, it's Clue. It's just Clue. It is exactly Clue. If you like Clue, if you have a good time playing it and you like spy themes, this is for you. So, if you want to see us play through this game on our channel, it is Doug and Doug Gaming on YouTube. Now, starting on our next Fellowship of Meeples video, Doug Jr. will be starting his top 10 countdown for his favorite 10 games of all time. So be sure to join us for that. In the meantime, I am Doug the Third, signing off from Doug and Doug Gaming. Have a good day.
And that's it for another Board Game Breakfast, folks. Thanks so much. Like I said, in 17 minutes, Z will be playing Love Letter on the app, so join him for that. At noon, Mike will be here with a Q&A, and at 3 o'clock, this is all Eastern Standard Time, by the way, Eastern Daylight Time, we'll be back with At the Table with Tom and Eric. Yeah, lots of stuff coming this week. We hope you enjoy it. Don't forget, tomorrow, 2 live things going on tomorrow. At noon is the Top 100 of All Time begins, and at 3 o'clock, Shoot Some Marbles is back in its regular slot. All right.
Good stuff.
Well, the next time, I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Wendy Yee.
I'm Chris Yee.
Have fun gaming.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vassell and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production.